call the October 28, 2019 regular meeting of Peters Township Council to order. Mr. Lauer, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Merrill will not be here this evening. Mr. Steigel?
Present.
Mr. Curry?
Here.
Mr. Kozer?
Here.
Mr. Berquist?
Here.
Mr. Ball?
Present.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the October 14, 2019 regular meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. 501, Mr. Lauer. Next is special reports, of which there are none. Next, we move on to audience comments. This is the portion of the meeting where any member of the audience can speak for up to 5 minutes on a non-agenda item. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to speak?
Good evening. I'm Peter Glasser, 143 Longview Drive in Peters. Most of Longview Drive is a minimum service shot and chip road, which is deteriorating all along the length of the road. In some places, there's been a loss of roadway of 2 or 3 feet in width on each side of the road. So it is now as much as 5 feet more narrow than before. And this is a roadway which was narrower than normal development streets in the township to start with. I have some photographs I'm going to pass around. You can see from some of these photos, and I had trouble with digital photography, but I hope you can see from them. Not only is the road surface gone, but in some sections, even the stone base is gone, and we're down to the dirt underneath what used to be road. I understand it's a minimum service roadway, but we pay full taxes on our homes, and minimum service has never before meant zero service. Second, for the last month or so, there have been 2 contractors working on Willhaven, a nearby street. One is a developer building 2 new homes on Willhaven. The other is a contractor to the water company replacing water lines on Willhaven. Neither of these construction projects involves any work on Longview Drive, but the contractors have been parking all their heavy equipment overnight on Longview for the past month. This heavy equipment on our road not only contributes to the deterioration of Longview, but has also dangerously narrowed down our dark, unlit road during the night. And I'm talking about a chain of vehicles on there, construction vehicles. For the convenience of these contractors, Longview is now a 1-lane road in a large section of it. Homeowners who park their vehicles on the road in front of their own homes, where they own frontage on the street overnight, get ticketed. But these 2 contractors have been allowed to use our street as a nighttime parking lot. One of them, water company in particular, the water company contractor, has had their equipment parked from Friday night to today. They haven't moved it until this morning. It sat there for 3 days, narrowing the street down 3 nights and 3 days. And I'm here to ask the council to stop this and have all that construction equipment either ticketed for overnight parking or towed away and sold off, and to especially have these vehicles which are blocking the road removed before this Thursday, when there will be children walking Longview at night for trick-or-treating. And I have some photographs.
You can put them right there.
No, there's too many of them.
Okay. Too many?
It's not.
I think so. Let's just,
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
just give this, let's look at them.
Yeah.
Because by the time we put
I'm sorry, I thought you said place them here.
Yeah, we have the overhead projector, but you have too many. I thought you just said 1 or 2.
Overhead projector fee. And I don't think that this is going to show.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's too dark.
Printed on black and white.
Okay.
I don't have a color printer.
I drive through there on my way home, Mr. Glasser. I've noticed that.
But there's 2 sets. One shows all of the construction vehicles parked on the roadway, and
Put on there, Ed.
Well, let me try to answer the question. I'll be honest with you, this is the first I've heard of this. Those vehicles should not be there, and they will be notified tomorrow that they're not to be parked along on a public street every
Thank you.
night. So that's not a problem. But quite honestly, this is the first I've heard that this is occurring. So.
Well, I was actually going to bring the subject up because last week, and I believe it's the gas company based on the pipe that's going, Mr. Glasser, they had Willhaven completely closed.
And they had it closed today. I know that
It's
as I
been
drove
closed
by.
every day for about 2 weeks now.
Yeah. But there's no
Who was
reason
closed?
vehicles should be left on a public street. They don't have permission to do that.
the amazing thing is, there's a block of land between Willhaven and 19 along the road they're working on. They've already planted an outhouse on there. Why not park the construction vehicles?
Sure.
And there's a parking lot at KinderCare that could ask those people who don't use it at night if they could park the vehicles there. I had assumed some sort of a decision was made on this to allow them, because
No.
my understanding from Harry Frick was that every street in the township is patrolled at least once on every single shift.
No.
That's not true anymore?
Oh, it can't be. I mean, there's 100 and some miles of street.
Well, that's just
But-
what Harry told me.
Yeah, well, I can't speak for what Chief Frick said, but we will resolve this tomorrow, because there's no way those trucks should be on a public street overnight.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glasser. Anyone else want to speak? How are you, Ms. Shaner?
I'm making you happy, Mr. Kozer. I'm going to say something tonight. Ann Shaner, 123 Robin Hood Lane. I have a question for Mr. Lauer. At the October 14th meeting, there was, and council voted on it, about the renovation of the, just outside these chambers, the plaza, the Omni Stone or the bricks, whatever you want to call it, and also Field 5, the fencing, replacement of the fencing, okay? Now, I would like to know, what is the criteria that is used to determine when projects like that should be voted on? Because if you go outside and look at the Omni brick, it looks acceptable to me. There's a couple little ways, but nothing that a wheelchair could not maneuver. Wheelchair can't get up those steps anyway. And I took pictures, if council wants to see, because I don't know if you've all looked at it outside. The surrounding wood, sure, I agree, that should be replaced. It would make it look better. So I want to know what the criteria is. And when I went out to the field, I walked all around the field and looked at the fence. There are certain parts that look almost like brand new. That one part that is on the same side as the, I don't know if that's a concession stand or whatever, but it's a building.
And that is brand new on that side.
Yeah,
Won't
okay,
be
yeah, that is
replaced.
brand new. And then I know, the back side, yeah, it's leaning a little bit, but I went and pushed on it. It's very sturdy and strong, so it's not about to fall over or anything. So I just want to know what the criteria is, because if this is on the agenda, which it was for that, if we go online and look to see what's on the agenda, we can't, I could have gone out that day and looked at these two things, okay? But then I would not have been able to comment on them. So I have a purpose for my questions. So could you please tell me the criteria? Now, I understand that governmental bodies need to spend down your budget, okay? I can accept that. If you have to spend down your budget because you're coming up on the end of the year, I understand that.
That'd be wrong.
Okay.
We do not do that.
You don't do that? Okay. Because I just want to know, would the money be better spent? Because I surely think that that fence probably could sustain another year, at least.
Well, on all of these projects, like for instance, with regard to Parks and Recreation, one of the things that in the next week or so, we will go out and look at every park and examine the condition of facilities. And based upon that, recommendations come out of the Park and Rec Department and the manager's office with regard to what needs to be done in terms of keeping our facilities in good repair. We have no intention of replacing the new fence that has just been put in with when the concession stand went in. But the remainder of the fence does need to be replaced, and it does lean, and the concrete does stick up at the base on a number of those places, which creates a safety hazard. So
Yeah, but that could be repaired.
Let me finish. So that's
Okay.
why we're replacing the fence there. At the location here, it's a couple things. One, the brick has fallen back from the curb. The curb itself, the concrete curb, is broken up in areas. The ADA ramp that comes up does not meet current standards. And if you look at the side that where the Veterans Memorial is, the brick has fallen away. In fact, one of the things that we're going to be doing is not only that plaza, the brick area, but we're also going to be replacing the Veterans Memorial where that wall is
Yeah,
clearly.
I know. I took pictures of that, and you're saying that it can't be repointed?
No,
By a
that wall,
mason?
no, there's nothing to that wall. So what it's going to be replaced with is, rather than another brick wall with in fact, one of the things I wanted to talk to council tonight was there'll be a granite stone to replace that brick wall so that we don't have this problem going forward.
Yeah, but and it's costing, what, $50,000 to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, I looked up fiscal conservatism. I tried to find a saving grace for fiscal conservatism, and I couldn't. It just seems like money's being spent here and there and everywhere. So that's why I wanted to know the criteria for that.
Well, the criteria that brought it before council that evening was the fact that there had been bids received, and council has to authorize the contract award. But the decisions, what went into the work plan, were actually formulated early in the year or late last year as the budget process went through, where we looked through all the capital budgets that we were going to be contemplating. So
one of the things that will be happening, I believe at the second meeting in November, there will be a public hearing. And in that public hearing, people will have an opportunity to comment on the capital improvement program for next year. And I would encourage anyone to take a look at that and offer opinion and comment at that point. And one thing that I can tell you, my experience with council has always been they listen.
Yeah, I just think it's a shame. You know, we are a home rule community, and I guess I should be talking to them, not you guys, because no one seems to care about these things, and I don't know why I care about these things, okay? But I just wanted to ask you that question.
thank you.
Anyone else want to speak?
Good evening, Council. Ron Volks, 855 Bebot Road. I'll follow on with what the young lady said. I, too, took a look at Field 5. I walked the entire perimeter, and I frankly did not see a problem with that fence. Yes, there are some poles that are leaning. The reason they're leaning is when they were installed too close to the edge of the hill. The hill has eroded. The soil that was holding the concrete base of those poles has eroded away, causing the poles to lean. I had a contractor look at it, and he said, that's very easy to repair. All we'll do is straighten the pole, put some soil down, tamp it, and it'll be fine. It'll be straight again. Nowhere along that entire length, and that's about 2/3 of a mile, did I see anything but one small hole at the bottom of the fence, which I easily could have repaired myself had I had a clothes hanger with me. So we're going to spend a great deal of money replacing that fence, and frankly, that fence is still in excellent condition. I saw no reason why it wouldn't withstand all the robust treatment that it might get, and frankly, it doesn't get anywhere near the kind of harsh treatment that it might have gotten at, say, some other location. So it's in fine shape. Frankly, the money on these improvements, if we want to call them that, and I think that, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Lauer, you mentioned this was a routine replacement, the fence.
No, I don't know about routine. We don't replace. We have gone through a period where across our different parks, we have assessed the situation with regard to the fencing, and we have replaced fencing in various parks each year.
Right, but I thought that was a routine. It was part of a programmed replacement. In other words, obsolescence, you go in, you do preventive maintenance. I think it was preventive maintenance. That's what you
I'm not sure that I've used any of those terms, but I won't argue with those terms.
Okay, all right. Well, under the circumstances, I also had a contractor take a look at the front of the building where the patio is and the war memorial. He estimates that they could be repaired to like new condition for less than $10,000. So the Army Snowden's fine. They're not cracked. They've lifted a little bit, and that's not unusual around here with the mine subsidence we've got. We've got a substantial mine subsidence problem. I don't think of too many homes in the area that don't have a cracked brick or two. But the point I'm trying to make is that's money that is being spent that probably would be better spent in other areas. Mr. Glasser mentioned the road. That needs repaired. There are a lot of roadways in this township that need widened. We've got a problem with traffic congestion. That's going to bite you in the butt real hard. Look out, White Shark. Because we're not planning to get around that. We need turn-in and turn-out lanes so that we can expedite traffic movement throughout the township. If that happens, it's money better spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Anybody else want to speak?
Hi. I apologize at the outset if I'm probably completely out of order, but I just would like to ask a question to understand how the process works. Mr. Lauer, I'm John Parker from 116 Snyder Road. You and I spoke on the phone.
Yes.
And the township, and he's going to be placing something, I believe, on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes.
I am I'm not going to be able to be here because of my work, which unfortunately has to be my first priority just because I need to feed my family. But I wondered how I can convey my position. I'm suspecting there'll be some other people from our street that will attend that meeting, but in the event they don't, how can I present my side or our perspective on what he's going to be proposing at that meeting?
You can send us an email.
I can?
Yeah. You can send an email, a letter. I had sent a letter out to all the property owners.
I did receive that, and that's how I realized that it was going to be on the 11th. When we had spoken, you speculated, and I understand why it can't be, but you'd speculated that it might be this evening,
yes.
Which, there just wasn't time, for whatever reason, for that to be the case.
But my offer was, and I would extend that offer again, I'm meeting with two of the residents along the road, actually one tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock and somebody later in the week. I'm more than willing to go out and take a look at your situation and try to mitigate what your concerns are.
No, and I understand, but the concerns are extend beyond the residents of the street. In fact, we've created a survey, or not a survey, a poll, or excuse me, a petition. Gee whiz, I'm sorry, a little nervous. Petition, and a number of residents have opined on the situation, and that would be something that I would be conveying to you, not only the petition and how many people are supporting our position, but also their comments and things like that. So, and that's all I was trying to find out was how I would go about conveying that information appropriately to
you. Just want to put everything in a document and email it to us.
And don't be so nervous coming in front of us.
Yeah, really.
Well,
Relax.
Mr. Lauer will put it all in the document for us. If you want to put everything together in a document, you can email it to Mr. Lauer.
Or drop it off of the building, either way. But I really would encourage you to give me a call and we can schedule a time.
No, I believe you're meeting with one of my right next door neighbors tomorrow, so I'll probably I'm out there.
Okay, come on over.
Doing whatever, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no one, we'll move on to unfinished business, of which there is none, so we'll move on to new business. First item will be resignation of Dr. Raymond Heiss from the Peters Township Youth Commission.
I'll make a motion that we accept his resignation with regrets.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. 6-0. Mr. Lauer, next item is resolution accepting public improvements and easements in the Sherwood Pond Plan.
So the public improvements at the Sherwood Pond Plan are complete except for the installation of the final wearing course of asphalt. The improvements have been inspected by Gateway Engineers, and Mr. Zamitis is recommending their acceptance. These improvements include the roadways and the easements and the right-of-ways upon which they sit, as well as the storm sewer system. What it does not include is the pond. That pond that is located on the lower right-hand side is a retention pond, and we don't normally accept wet ponds. The homeowners association is going to be assigned ownership of that facility. So it's my recommendation that we approve Resolution 10-319, accepting the public improvements in easements as shown on the Sherwood Pond plan of lots.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next is resolution amending the municipal employees' pension plan to increase the level of employee pension contributions by firefighters.
In the last collective bargaining agreement, the township and the International Firefighters agreed to a provision that would allow firefighters to contribute additional sums to their pension plan. To be able to implement that, we have to amend the plan. So it's going to be my recommendation that Peters Township Council approve Resolution 10-419, amending the municipal employees pension plan.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any
Is this
discussion?
something we match?
No.
It's just a voluntary additional.
Yes, and and the important thing about this is, at least from my perspective, what this does, although ours is a defined contribution plan, it puts the funding in line with the police pension plan, so that they're contributing to that plan at the same level that the police contribute to their plan. And by increasing the amount, you would hope that the benefit that they would receive would then match the benefit that the police are able to do in their defined benefit plan.
Okay.
So,
Do we have a motion and a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item is resolution amending the Peters Township Transportation Capital Improvement Program.
So in August of 2008, council enacted the traffic impact fee program, and under that program, the township collects funds from developers as houses and commercial sites are being built. Those funds are earmarked for a series of traffic improvements that are throughout the township. Since its inception, we've collected $1,749,000 in traffic impact fees. The municipality planning code has a provision that allows us to annually look at updating that traffic improvement plan, and it also allows us to look at increasing the fees. We are not proposing this year to increase the fees. What we are doing is updating the timing on the plan. So the three projects that will be funded in the near future include Rolling Hills Drive and the intersection that's associated with that. In addition to that, in 2023, we will be looking at the intersection of Thompsonville and East McMurray Road. That's a project that PennDOT has on their tip, and we will be providing a match out of the traffic impact fees. And then in the following year, in 2024, this is the roundabout to be located at the intersection of Valley Brook and Bebop Road. That's where our, in the near term, where the traffic impact fees are programmed to be spent. So what we're asking council to do is to adopt Resolution 10-519, amending the Peters Township Traffic Capital Improvement Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a question. You're saying we're not increasing the fee?
Yes. When we went back and looked at this closely last year, what we decided that we would do, and we presented this to council, is that we would review the fee every other year so that we're not having annual increases, but we're looking at this every 2 years. So next year, we'll be examining that fee. And quite frankly, it could be much higher, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind it needs to stay competitive with others who have this same kind of fee in place. So we're going to look at it next year to determine whether or not it needs to increase.
Well, we actually suffer quite a few appeals to what that assessment is on properties.
Yeah, it's
Honda in Washington
Yes.
Financial. Only two over the last
right.
several years.
I thought the daycare center was another one down on Waterdam.
They paid, Primrose paid over
Yes.
$200,000 in traffic impact.
Yes.
We need to start showing some results for it, too.
Well, And what you're seeing is you'll have $1 million that is being used to offset the cost of Rolling Hills Drive, which otherwise would have been paid for by the taxpayers.
We need to start putting that back into some projects.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lau. Our next item is award of a bid for gasoline and diesel fuel.
In October, Shaycog Purchasing Alliance opened bids for their fall commodities, which include fuel. The way that bid is done, it is an incremental price over top of a index for the Pittsburgh area. As you can see, Glassmere's incremental price is actually the lowest of the two bidders, and it's our recommendation that Glassmere Fuel Services be awarded a contract for gasoline and diesel fuels in accordance with the Shaycog Purchasing Alliance.
So moved. Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lau. Our next item is award of a bid for life insurance and disability insurance.
On late September, the township received proposals to provide group insurance, including life insurance, accidental death and disability, and long-term disability for our employees. Quotations were received from 3 insurance brokers who collectively represented 5 insurance companies. In the docket, there's a detailed breakout of that. It's not easily condensed to be able to put up on the screen, but it's both Mr. Jaworski's and my opinion that the proposal provided by ENSCO Long through One America represents the most favorable option, and if accepted, it will result in a cumulative savings of $34,705 over the rates that we currently are paying. So with that in mind, it's my recommendation that Peters Township Council award a 4-year contract to One America through Entro Long for employee life insurance and disability insurance.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next is payroll and bills.
I've reviewed the payroll and bills. I find them in order. Move that they be paid.
I'll second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next is correspondence. Any correspondence to discuss, Mr. Lauer?
No.
Next is reports. Any member of council wish to discuss any of the various commission or committee reports?
Just because I'm sure the community is hearing discussions relative to fire service and fire department, I'd like to make note that we are keeping track of now by district, District 1 being close to Station 1, or this part of the township, I think, west of Thomas Road, and District 2. And the split is actually like 1/3, 2/3. So we're continuing to experience an increase in responses that are required out in the eastern part of the township, which is what has us contemplating how to provide a level of service that I think our residents are expecting.
Actually, I was going to bring this up under the next agenda that falls along Mr. Lewis's comments. Following the meeting we had last week when we discussed the additional staffing in the new station, I think in my mind it became pretty clear that there's a disconnect between what the different members of council and staff have in mind for how a new station is going to be run. It seems like we, as I mentioned last week, I think we have the cart ahead of the horse on a lot of this. We're looking at conceptual designs for a fire station, and we don't really have any plan to move it forward. So with that in mind, if everybody else in council agrees, I think at this point we probably need to task the 3 chiefs with developing a strategic plan to move forward, how they plan to staff that station, how they plan to respond out of that station with different types of calls, the equipment that they want to put in there. I think only when we know that can we adequately design a station and move that new district response forward.
I agree.
And one of the things at the next meeting, Chief McLaughlin's going to be here anyhow presenting the emergency operations plan, so it would be appropriate time to have that discussion with him.
But in addition to that material, I would like to know a breakdown of where we actually get fire calls.
What's in the paper right here? Go to page Well, it says fire on your thing.
Where is it? Under the fire?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see that. Is it by year or just this year?
It's by month.
By
year.
This past year.
Yeah, there's month and year to date.
I'd like to see it for the past 5 years.
And that's possible to do because...
It's not possible?
No, I said it is possible to do because they provide this each month and it would be easy to do. The other thing that we can do is, they don't present the information in this fashion, but I suggested that we need to do is to look at the calls and the times to response by district by time of day. See, this is why, when we were talking about staffing that station and doing it in an overnight and on a weekend basis, the point that Chief McLaughlin was making is that when that section of town, unlike the Route 19 section, a lot of that activity has to do with those houses are most occupied. So in the evening when people return from work and when children are back in the homes, that's when they believe their exposure is the greatest. And that's why they wanted to have a transition plan that began by staffing that area at night and on weekends when all the homes were occupied. But
I still think you've got to look at the statistics to see whether or not it's actually warranted or justified before we go and start spending, millions of dollars or whatever it is to build this thing and staff it and do everything else.
Absolutely, I agree.
Because most of my viewpoint is that area is going to get developed. It's not a hotbed of activity, but it's getting there. But those are all newer homes, so it's maybe it's less likely that there's going to be those types of problems.
And again, maybe when Chief McLaughlin's here, it's better to have this discussion. But what you see in District 2 is the real difference in response being on this end of town and that end of town has all to do with where that fire truck is rolling out of. And if the truck was closer, it would respond quicker, and that's really the only difference. And the problem is right now, in the evening, if you've got to go from Station 1 to the far end of Venetia, that's a long haul. That's a long haul. But I'll tell you what, I'll speak to Chief McLaughlin. He'll be prepared to talk about this.
Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, did you have something else to say?
No.
Okay, it looked like you had. Okay. Miscellaneous, set date for public hearing for amending the 2019 Peters Township budget.
So actually what I put up here is just so we're all on the same page for the calendar for November. We do not have a meeting on November 4th unless council feels there's a reason to get together. I think from our standpoint, I think we have the information we need to proceed with the budget. The next regular council meeting, there's going to be a short public hearing on a budget amendment. It's the budget amendment like we do every year. There's a council workshop on the 18th, and it's really a Rolling Hills Park update to bring you up to date with the progress we've made there, and also to take a look at the plans that are being developed for the new park. And then on the 25th is that public hearing for the 2020 budget. If people have input about anything in that budget, that's their opportunity. So,
anyone else have anything under miscellaneous? Now, I did have 3 separate parents email me today, wanted to know whether we're going to go forward with trick-or-treating on Thursday because they're calling for 2 inches of rain and flooding and all that good stuff.
I can tell you, we have never moved Halloween off of Halloween.
Yes, we have once.
I was going to say, I can remember the one thing that I was admonished by Michael was that apparently years ago they did that, and he says it was a problem. So, is that okay?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay.
And there were a lot of complaints when you moved it to Saturday because that became the Sabbath for a number of our residents.
So if we were to move it, we'd probably have to move it to Sunday since there is a football game on Friday night. So the question would be whether anyone. No, I'm just saying. I mean, I don't want our kids out. I mean, they're calling for 2 inches of rain, flooding, and all that.
Well, we walked through 8 inches of snow
well,
too.
We did,
so.
right, we did, but I'm not saying we want our kids out there.
Uphill both ways.
But if we can move it to any date you want. I will tell you that there will be kids out on October
Yeah,
3rd.
leave it alone.
No, I mean, I'm just bringing it up.
They might be completely wrong, too.
Well, that's true. I'm not saying we should move it now. I mean, I just would hate to see a
My list
situation
here.
where, and I just don't want to see a situation where some kid gets injured because they're out there in a downpour. All right, is there anything that any member wants to see on the next agenda?
Before you go on, October 31st at 10 a.m., we will be gathering at the Old Oak and Oakwood Drive to commemorate Captain Urquhart. No, it's this Thursday at 10 a.m.
Oh,
Yeah, it was the one in Washington. This is,
obviously I skimmed through that.
yes.
Is there anything any member of council wants to see on the next agenda? Anyone else have anything for the good of the order? No executive session tonight? Okay, we are adjourned.